guys, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Welcome to Hartung Family Farms. And today, first time up on the farm. It's August like 10th, 11th, something like that. And we're just gonna go out and crop scout. I got some stuff I'm going to do up in Bellevue. Might take a flatbed and the skid loader up there, but let's go see how things are going, see how the crops are doing, give you guys a crop update, give you guys a farm update, see what we get into. Well, I'm gonna hop in the blue truck. I don't see really any four-wheelers around that work. We have two of them that are sitting in there that they just don't like to work. So I'm going to use this to go drive around and scout a couple fields, and I'll eventually hook the flatbed up to it as well. But I want to drive back there and just kind of see how some of our fields are doing. We got our latest planted corn up here on top of the hill. Card of this video right here was the last time I actually went up and scouted. It's been a little bit. Got plenty of plans for that. Eventually that building's going to get torn down. We haven't had cattle into this place at all fall, all spring, summer. It is summer right now. We haven't had cattle in here at all. So this field was about a quarter of the way through of planting, and then this field was the last field we planted. So we'll drive over a little bit and then walk in and kind of go see what we see. Yeah, the truck just kind of sounds weird. That seems good enough. Let's go see where we're going. So you can obviously tell the corn has, you know, grown a lot since the last time you guys have seen it, last time I've seen it, really all the above. Corn has finished tasseling for the most part. We are past VT. So what that means is these tassels right here, each one of these needs to pollinate the corn ears down here. So you can kind of see every one of these silks right here on the ear, they lead down to a kernel of corn. And these silks need to be pollinated by the corn plants, by the tassels up on top. Tassels release pollen, pollinates the corn, and it actually makes a kernel of corn. And that's what fills the ears out. So you can kind of see we have a lot of plants that are double ears on them that are actually growing 2 ears. Wow, that's crazy. I feel like a lot of that's just because it's towards the outside. It has plenty of sunlight. But I could walk down here and, man, I'm seeing a lot of corn plants that have double ears. Like right here. This one's just got one, double, 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 double. Kind of see we got some tar spot coming in. We did spray fungicide on this corn. Spraying fungicide just kind of helps it, you know, combat diseases and whatnot. So all of our farm, minus about 80 acres, got sprayed for fungicide this year. And honestly, this corn is looking good. This is some of the best corn that we've ever seen. It might be a bumper crop if it keeps going. So I'm gonna walk in a little bit. We're gonna grab an ear, see what it looks like. What in the world? I forget what this is called. I call them sucker heads, but you know, it's a plant that didn't grow right. Instead of shooting a tassel out, it grew its ear of corn right here. Weird. It actually stemmed off of that plant. And while I'm here, I wanted to just point out the crucialness of emergence. See how these plants aren't very tall? So we got even height, even height, even height, down halfway and then back up. You need to have even spacing and even emergence. What that means is on the planter, you want all your corn to come up at the same time, because as I've said before, it's just like the bully on the playground. If you don't have your corn up at the same time, the taller corn's gonna take all the food, all the water, all the nutrients, and drown out the rest of them. So look at that, these guys are small because I bet they came up later. That's what your pollen looks like right there. Yeah, the ears are at my shoulders, that's crazy. See how there's not hardly any double ears anymore? I won't see that too much. This looks like a pretty good spot. I'm about 30 rows in. We'll grab this one. I'm actually gonna kill this plant too, because there's no point of it living anymore because I just took its kernel. There we go. That way it doesn't take any more nutrients. Ooh, I do not like the look of that. That's some sort of disease. I don't know what it is though. I haven't seen that much. I'm gonna take a picture of that because I'm kind of curious. So I got one ear from this field, one ear from this field, and then we'll go over to our first planted corn after this. I just want to go back and check some soybeans. So I mentioned before that we are kind of on the verge of a bumper crop, and here's kind of the main reason why. We have been extremely fortunate. We are just kind of been in the breadbasket of rains this year. You know, it seems like every 4 to 7 days we get a good inch of rain, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it seems like every week we at least got something. Where, you know, up north sometimes they got, you know, they had a 7-inch rain not too long ago. Down south they didn't get hardly anything. So It's been kind of hit or miss this year, but for the most part, I mean, it's been phenomenal how fortunate we have been. So we are counting our blessings, hoping that the corn finishes well, that the beans keep going. You know, corn is made in the month of July, where it's like not terribly hot temperatures and a lot of water during pollination. Well, now that we are past pollination, corn's pretty well made, and the beans are made in August. If we have a lot of rain in August, or a decent amount of rain in August, good growing conditions, we're gonna have a great soybean crop. But for the most part, our corn's made. It's looking really well. Just hoping that we don't get any windstorm that knock it over, and really just should be pretty fortunate this year, we're hoping. And then for soybeans, gonna go back and look at our first planted soybean crop, and this is our first planted crop. Need to get up here and get some bales moved. I smell hay. It smells delicious. Yeah, this is what we don't want right here. I'm already seeing a lot more bug pressure. Just by looking at the leaves, you can tell, because there's just a lot more holes and stuff in them. I don't know what happened here. Too much residue. So these soybeans look pretty good. They're about the same as our last planted field, but you can kind of tell they're much farther along as far as development goes. See, I'll just pull a plant at random here. I'm in a little bit of a low spot. I'm gonna go right there, pull a plant. Pull this one. I'm gonna get one plant. Make sure that's all we get. Cool, we'll take this over and we'll go do a pod count on it. Compare that to the one over there. Like I said, this is our first planted soybean field. As you can kind of see, soybeans grow all the way to the ground. Right here's the ground point. They're about 2 to 3 inches above it, and they're just set. All the pods are set. Now they're just starting to fill them out. And that's what a soybean pod looks like. Most of the time they have 3 beans in a pod. Sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 2. Just kind of all depends. This field looks pretty uniform. You can kind of see there's bug damage, a decent amount of it. Let's go do a pod count. So right now we got about 45 pods on the soybean plant. That's pretty average. It looks halfway decent. Most of them are going to have 3 pods. Some of them will have 2. This one will only have 1, or would have only had 1. But I'd say a good average would be 2.5 pods per plant, or 2.5 beans per pod. I'd say a good average would probably be 40 to 45. We planted this at around 150,000 population. Hopefully we have a final stand of 140, because you're never going to have a perfect stand. So I'd say maybe, I'm hopeful for 60 bushel, maybe 65. I really wish we would have gotten some fungicide and insecticide on here. I'm guessing that we didn't, just by the amount of bugs that are on here. It's really going to hurt our yield, especially when that happens. See, these bugs is just eating the crap out of it. Yeah, not good. When the bugs eat the leaves, that's just less less energy from the sun that each plant can capture. That basically just means less juice they can put to the beans. So we're going to lose a little bit of test weight with that, and potentially even lose some pods if it gets too bad. But I don't know. I'm curious. I don't think we sprayed this one with insecticide. Wish we would have, but hey, it is what it is. So a little bit about our operation. We can grow the snot out of corn. I mean, we have some really good ground that we've just put cattle manure on for the last 50, 60 years. They can just grow the snot out of it well north of 200 bushel. But soybeans, I feel like we're just leaving some on the table. You know, we're kind of around that 50-ish bushel mark, you know, give or take 5 bushels, depending on the ground and whatnot. We got fields that can go higher, but I'd say our farm average is around there. I think we can do more. I'd like to try some more fungicide. So I would have liked to see an extra pass made with the sprayer, because I think we put on fungicide this year, but some of it was just with a combination of foliar feed and herbicide pass on our last herbicide pass. But I would have liked to see us wait for the beans to get a little bit more to that R3, R2 stage, which basically means it's flowering near the top of the plant. The third pod is starting to flower. I would have liked to see us wait until then to put on our fungicide. We put it on around R1, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But hey, it is what it is. And what that I guess I really didn't explain what that means. R means reproductive. The soybean is starting to reproduce and put on and set pods, where V stages, which was what it before, is vegetative growth. But either way, we are fortunate, we are blessed to have a phenomenal season so far. I just hope it keeps going, and I pray that, you know, especially guys like in the southern Iowa that have been in drought, I hope they get a rain soon, because I heard they are hurting. Looks like they cut and baled this rye off, and then now they've been spreading manure on it as well. But it's almost lunchtime. Let's go get some lunch and we can keep crop scouting. It does look like we wrapped some more marshmallows. Yeah, we definitely have. Oh yeah, this row is new. I'm guessing we had some wet bales. We don't wrap a ton of bales. That basically means it's the white wrap on top of the net wrap that we have on most of our bales. I'm guessing that they did that because we had some really wet bales, and with hay you want to bale it dry unless you can wrap it. What that basically means is if you don't do that, the hay can spoil. They just got done hauling manure, loading out some soybeans. That's our first planted cornfield, but I'm actually going to go to our second planted cornfield, which is planted the next morning. Card to that video right here, just because I have a feeling that's going to do better. It's a little bit better ground and it's got a little bit longer of maturity, so let's go check that out first. So this is, like I said, our second planted cornfield. It's a long variety. I believe it's a 14-day Cornelius seed variety, and I'm just looking at it right now. I mean, these corn cobs are thick. They're girthy. Granted, I'm only on the outside right now. I'm going to walk in here soon, but I am really high hopes of how this is going to yield. Stalks are thick. You look like a good average. We'll take you. And now let's get out of this. For those of you guys who've never walked through a tall cornfield before, it sucks. It's itchy. I think I'm halfway allergic to it because I'll show you guys probably at the end of the day. I'll have red marks all over my hand. So we got 3 ears. One at our first planted cornfield, one with our last planted cornfield, and one about halfway in between, a little less than half. Granted, this is just 1 ear. If you want to get a good solid representation, I'd recommend 5 to 10 at different spots where you can get a good average. I don't have that much time. Grandma's gonna call for dinner here, I bet, in a minute. And then I gotta head out to Bellevue because I got other stuff to do. I can only be up here for probably 6-7 hours. And I got plenty of stuff to do. So like I said, it's not gonna be perfect, but it'll be what it is. So like I said, this is our first planted cornfield. So it's 16 around and it's really long. When you have drought years, the thing will happen is called tip back. If it doesn't have enough moisture during pollination, you only have kernels up to here or here, depending on how bad your drought is. When you had a good moisture and a good pollination, you'll have kernels all the way up to the top. 42 long, that's pretty good. I bet that'll be a good average. I have a feeling that there's gonna be more 18 around than 16s, but hey, this is the one I picked. So we got 16 around by 42 long. That's the first planted cornfield. And again, you can kind of see how the silks, each one will go to an individual kernel. This one's also 16 around, and you can kind of see how this one's a lot more white than this one. This one's more yellow, and it's also starting to dent. I mean, you could definitely tell this is much further along. I don't know the specifics on the different stages of corn, but I just know that when you pop a kernel out, you can actually tell on the kernel of corn, the farther down that the milk line is what it's called, the farther down that milk line goes, the more mature it is. And eventually it's gonna all look yellow and not this kind of milky white color. So in the middle we have 16 around by 35 long. And here's our last one. Doesn't look near as good, which it shouldn't. The later you wait to plant your corn, the worse it's going to be, just the less growing season that it has. It's actually 18 around, which is surprising, but you can kind of see it's just not near as girthy. It's a lot smaller. Just hasn't built up its test weight yet, its girth. But it's 18 around, which is pretty good. 36 long. So like I said, it's not a perfect representation. If you want to get a good average, you need to get more, but this is halfway decent at least. But even though our latest planted corn is longer and wider than our middle planted corn, you also got to keep in mind your density. See how this is much thicker? These are going to pack on more dense kernels, a longer test weight if it does get cut off soon by a frost. But like I said, this is also planted a week apart, so it's behind genetically, you can tell. But if every single one of our fields were this exact length and girth, now granted, like I said, it's not gonna be perfect. I expect this one to yield more than that, and the other ones I bet are pretty close. It just all depends on test weight as well as how well it yields. But for the most part, I think it's like I said before, we're looking really good. We're gonna have a really good farm yield, farm average, I would say, well into the 200s. But there's only one true test, one true way to figure this out. That's to run the combine across it in a couple months. Well, not in a couple months, but in 2 months. Yeah, we're only 2 months away from harvest, guys. We're gonna start chopping here in a couple weeks. Probably in 2.5 weeks, I would guess. Guy's huge. No thanks. Hi, kitty. Where's your tail? Yeah, where's your tail? Yeah, as I mentioned before, guys, we are very fortunate. We might be having a bumper crop of record year on the farm. So let's go ahead and drive around for a smidge while Nathan's cleaning up. So this shed they're gonna rip down, I believe, next week when Pat gets back. Pat and Renee are actually out at the state fair. Actually, Pat, Rhonda, Renee, and Amber are all at the state fair. They're all out there doing, I think Renee's showing her cow out there, her steer. So that's exciting, but we didn't have any cattle in this yard at all. We just kind of took the normal amount of cattle we have and spread them out the rest of the 3 yards so we can get this ripped down. And I'm not sure what we're gonna do with it. Maybe, yeah, I'm honestly not even sure what we're gonna do with it, but they're gonna rip this out down tomorrow, or sorry, next week. We're doing pretty good on feed. That haylage needs to last another month or so. But even our silage only needs to last for another week or two. But shoot, we got plenty. We got haylage right here and we got silage behind it. We got plenty of feed, so we're looking pretty good, I'd say. Got this nice wide driveway to come up and around. Good hay right here. Really good alfalfa. Curtis went to go take that load of corn to ADM. Nathan's gonna actually come up to Bellevue with me in the next video. You guys will watch that. We're gonna do some demo on the farm up in Bellevue. You'll see. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I mean, I pretty much caught you guys up. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video. If you guys did, be sure to hit that like button. Comment if you guys have any questions, and of course, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hartung Family Farms. And of course, guys, as always, ta-ta for now. P.S. Our Chicago tractor returned its tires. If you guys know what I'm talking about, comment that down below.